Chapter 711, A Different World. Tang Wuling turned to face White Seven and held out his right hand when Black One appeared behind them. His partner hesitated a moment before taking his hand in hers, but her hand tightened around his the moment their feet left the ground. She is easily frightened for an agent, he thought. An instant later they were inside the hole in the sky. Tang Wuling opened his eyes wide, but found he couldn't see anything. For a moment he thought he was blind. He couldn't breathe. He felt as if his brain was being scrambled. His head hurt so much he thought it was going to explode. He held White Seven's hand tightly. She must be more scared than I am. Suddenly the darkness was gone, and so was the indescribable pain in his head. That was the good part. The bad part was they were about 50 feet high above the ground and they were falling. Tang Wuling tried to summon the Blue Silver Emperor, but nothing appeared. Black One had warned them that this would happen, so he didn't panic. But the same thing couldn't be said for White Seven, whose arms and legs were flailing wildly in the air. Calm down, he shouted. When she didn't listen, he pulled her up and held her bridal style in his arms. He looked down as the ground rushed up to meet them. Then came a loud thud. The landing sent a shockwave through Tang Wuling's legs, but he bent his knees, absorbing the impact. White Seven didn't remember throwing her arms around her partner, but when she opened her eyes again, she was in his arms, her breasts pressing to his chest. She blushed fiercely beneath her mask and hurriedly disentangled herself from him. Then they looked around casually, trying to ease the awkwardness. Where are we? Tang Wuling asked. He looked up, half expecting to see a black hole, but the sky was intact and blue, bluer than any sky he had ever seen. This is the Dragon Valley. Yes, White Seven said, nodding. We're in a different world now. A different world. Tang Wuling echoed, eyes wide in disbelief. There are many portals around our country, and each one opens to a different small world, she explained. Most of the small worlds are very unstable. In time they may crumble and fall apart, destroying everything inside it. But don't worry, this one is stable enough. Looks like someone didn't pay attention in science class. She chuckled. For a moment Tang Wuling forgot he had a mask on and feigned an embarrassed smile. Your science class is different from mine, Tang Wuling thought, amazed. The Douluo continent is so interesting. We can't use any soul skills here, Tang Wuling said. Tell me something I don't know. You don't know I'm from the Douluo continent, Tang Wuling thought, and you don't know I can use the Golden Dragon King's power here. But he couldn't tell her, not when he had become the most hated man in her country. He was so notorious in the Douluo Empire that he had to wear a mask everywhere he went. Hopefully I don't have to use Golden Dragon King's power, which will surely give away who I am. If they can survive here without using soul skills, so can I. A flash of light and two spirit-refined heavy silver hammers appeared in his hands. Good. I can still use my soul storage rings. You're a blacksmith? White Seven asked, surprised. Yes. I take them with me wherever I go. I wish I had my mecha here with me though. Your mecha is nothing more than a heap of junk in here. Mechas run on soul power, but soul power is suppressed in this world, even the soul power in soul batteries. Why? Tang Wuling asked, curious. How would I know? Nobody knows why. Maybe soul masters with higher cultivation levels could use soul skills here, but it seems this world doesn't welcome them. They would be ejected out immediately, even if they somehow managed to enter. Come on, we shouldn't be wasting time here. This place is a gold mine for soul masters. Tang Wuling nodded and walked in front, holding his heavy silver hammers. White Seven followed close at his heels, with a dagger in each hand. After walking for a while, Tang Wuling found that they had been transported into a large piece of wildland. There were hills, woods, undergrowth, and grass, but he hadn't seen a single animal so far. A light mist was hovering over the ground. He didn't know why, but he sensed sadness in the air. The force of gravity here was about 2 times greater than that on the planet Douluo, so before long White Seven was panting. Tang Wuling turned to face the girl. Maybe we should rest for a while. White Seven nodded. Chapter 712. You're sick. I'll get up that tree to keep a lookout, Tang Wuling told White Seven. He went to the big tree and began to climb. When he felt he was high enough, he looked around to make sure they were alone and then found a comfortable branch to sit on. He was hungry. All that marching and running had consumed a lot of his energy, and hiking in a world with such strong gravity didn't help. So he took out a bing and a chunk of beef, folded the bing around the meat, and started stuffing himself. White Seven took her seat on a clean stone beneath the tree and gracefully drank a swallow of water from her bottle. Why isn't she eating? Tang Wuling wondered. Is she not hungry? Then the answer hit him. She doesn't have anything to eat, because almost all the food that small town can provide today is in my storage rings. He thought he heard her stomach rumbling. He could have offered her something to eat, but he didn't feel like being a gentleman today. White Seven stole a glance at him, and just as quickly averted her eyes. She couldn't bring herself to ask for food from him, partly because she was too prideful and partly because she feared he was still holding a grudge against her for not letting him sleep in their room. But soon her fear gave way to hunger. Bring down your food to me, she heard herself say as Tang Wuling started wolfing a second bing. Tang Wuling didn't so much as glance at her. She might be a highborn lady, but her manners are far from ladylike. Hey, you. Did you hear me? I said, bring down the food. White Seven flared, lurching to her feet. My name is not Hey You. You can call me White 3, Tang Wuling said, not unkindly. You said you were a gentleman. What kind of gentleman watches a girl starve while stuffing himself? She shouted up. The bad kind, said Tang Wuling, smiling. I might give you some if you ask nicely. Ask nicely. White Seven snorted. I have always had everything handed to me on a silver platter. If you think I'll ask nicely, you must be crazy. Tang Wuling laughed. I might be crazy, but you're sick. White Seven didn't understand what he was talking about. I'm not sick, she said angrily. Yes, you are. You have princess syndrome. The girl was infuriated. Get down here. I'm warning you. No, Tang Wuling said, eating, wondering what she might do. Then suddenly pain flared up in his head, so sharp that he lost his balance and fell headfirst towards the ground, his being slipping out of his hand. A spiritual attack? He quickly used his spiritual power to fight it and managed to land on his hands, and then he vaulted backwards onto his feet. He glowered at her. You were warned, she said with a gloating smile. You really shouldn't have done that, Tang Wuling said, picking up his food. Our partnership ends here. Now you're on your own. I'm sure you'll be fine, since you can always find everything you need on your silver platter. And with that he started to stride off. White Seven had never thought he would get so angry, but she would sooner die than entreat him to stay. She snatched up her water bottle and held it at him. Tang Wuling whirled around and caught it with his left hand. I wouldn't waste water if I were you, he said, throwing the bottle back at her feet. At least give me some food before you go, she wanted to say, but she pressed her lips together stubbornly and said nothing, watching him disappear into the distance. Talk about a spoiled girl, Tang Wuling thought sullenly as he walked. I hope I'll never see her again. She is so willful. Douluo can be willful sometimes, but she is not thoughtless. The thought of Douluo slowed his pace. Why are you so distant to me these days? What's on your mind? Why won't you tell me? We'll arrive at the next city soon, she said excitedly to Yuan and Yui, who was sitting beside him on a bus. The tour guide said there are portals leading to other worlds on this continent. Can you believe that? Yuan and Yui listened with a bored look on her face. Shu Shaoan was sitting with Yue Tangyu, and beside Yu Xinglan was Shu Lizzie. The seat next to Gu Yue was empty, like her heart. I wish the captain were here with us, she heard Shi say. Where are you, Wuling? Are you so busy you can't even call? She pulled out her soul communicator and stared at it, but in the end she didn't dial the number. I shouldn't have promised to enter the inner court with you. No, I should never have befriended you in the first place. She missed him more than she cared to admit. Tang Wuling slid under a large bush on a plain, flat on his belly, and peered up through thick branches. Are those clouds? He thought, alarmed. Floating in the sky about 300 feet above the ground were a group of clouds, but unlike normal clouds, they came in 7 different colors: red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and purple. Although their shapes were slowly changing, they always looked like dragons. They were drifting across the sky, but never far away from the plane. Maybe these clouds are the reason why this place is called the Dragon Valley. He could sense energy in the strange clouds, and somehow he felt an affinity with them, but he was not sure if it was safe to walk under them. So he grabbed up a stone, got back up to his feet, and threw it at one of the clouds. Chapter 713, Dragon Clouds. The stone shot up like a shell out of a cannon. It went clean through the red cloud, leaving a hole in it, but the hole healed up almost in an instant as if nothing had happened. At least they were not alive, Tang Wuling judged. What are they? He couldn't jump high enough to reach them, not without the help of his martial soul. I can't hide here forever. I have to find out what they are. No risk, no reward. Tang Wuling readied the power of the Golden Dragon King and stepped out of the bushes warily. The flamboyant clouds were still drifting sluggishly across the sky. Step by step, he moved closer and closer, until he was right beneath the red cloud. Nothing happened. Are they just clouds? But he could feel even more clearly the energy in them. As he was staring up at the red cloud, suddenly it changed into the shape of a top and started spinning violently. Tang Wuling was startled. What? He had no time to think about it, not when the red top was flying towards him at high speed. Golden light burst out from Tang Wuling as he activated the golden dragon body. Then he found to his shock all the dragon clouds above the plane were rushing at him. Crap. I think I made them mad or something. He raised his arms, bracing himself for the impact. But when the red cloud connected with them, he felt nothing. It went right through him. Suddenly he felt so warm and comfortable all over, and he could feel his blood rushing hot through his veins. The red cloud took on a hint of golden color when it left his body. He saw. It swelled into the shape of a dragon again and slowly floated back up into the sky. That was when a cyan cloud reached him. Tang Wuling became so weightless that he could almost float in the air. It also assumed a golden color after it flew through his body. The 7 colors represent the 7 different elements. Tang Wuling realized quickly. Fire, wind, water, earth, light, darkness, and space. And all the clouds have dragon's energy in them. That's why I feel so connected with them. All the clouds in the vicinity of Tang Wuling came and went in a matter of seconds. The energy they left in his body seeped into his blood, traveling all around him. Tang Wuling rushed back into the safety of the bushes, sat down, and started meditating. He didn't know why these energies existed in the form of elementary particles, but he was sure they were natural energies and that they were strikingly pure, purer than the purest thing he could think of. As the energies entered his blood, he could feel his strength increasing quickly. The 7 elements were like 7 extremely nutritious foods, nourishing his body, making it grow stronger. His body gorged on the energies greedily, and before long he entered into a deep meditation. Tang Wuling could not have said how long he meditated. It might have been hours or it might have been days. When he finally woke up, he felt so alive and so full of vigor. He could feel power flowing through his veins, hot and intense, pulsating with the beating of his heart. He thought he could sense the 7 different elements in the air if he concentrated hard enough. And he found, much to his surprise, he didn't even feel hungry. Tang Wuling rose to his feet and stretched. He looked around. Everything was just as it had been when he sank into meditation. The colorful clouds were still there, drifting unhurriedly in the sky above the plane, glinting a faint golden in the sun. Maybe they took some of the golden dragon king's power in my blood when they left my body, but they took little, if any, of its power, because I don't think that power has grown weaker than before. He pulled out his soul communicator to check the date and time, but it had stopped working. Perhaps the soul power in the soul battery has been suppressed, like White 7 said, or perhaps time flows differently in this world. Chapter 714. I'm so tired. Tang Wuling walked out of the bushes and towards the clouds again, activating his golden dragon body. Golden scales spread across his skin and shone brightly in the sun, but this time the dragon clouds didn't fly down. Time to move on, he told himself. Before long he stumbled across another group of dragon clouds and absorbed more energy from them this time. By the 9th time, Tang Wuling found he didn't have to meditate to digest the energy. He clutched his hands into fists, feeling the freshly acquired power surging within him. Not only had his strength increased a great deal, but his spiritual power had improved. His scales had grown bigger, harder, and more defined, and he found to his pleasant surprise that his golden dragon king seals had somehow been reinforced, which meant he didn't have to break the 7th seal anytime soon. He still remembered how badly his body had hurt when he broke the 6th seal. He really didn't want to go through that kind of pain again. As he was walking out of the plane looking up at the sky in search of more dragon clouds, Tang Wuling heard a shrill scream of fear from the woods not far from him. A girl. He jerked his head to the scream and glimpsed a figure in a white cloak running out of the woods. Behind her was a wingless phantom dragon with a huge horn on its nose. It was catching up quickly. What is her partner doing? Tang Wuling thought as he rushed towards her as fast as his feet would take him. He knew her dragon ball would save her, but he couldn't just stand and watch while the dragon mauled her. In her haste to flee from the wrath of the dragon, the girl tripped over a root and stumbled to her knees. The translucent beast lowered its head, preparing to drive its horn into the poor girl. But by then Tang Wuling had reached her. He glanced at her as he ran past, and caught a glimpse of the nameplate on her chest. White 7. He dodged the horn nimbly and threw a punch at its head. The beast gave a cry of pain and transformed into numerous small balls of light, which seeped into his body in a heartbeat. This is energy. Tang Wuling realized right away, but this energy is neither pure nor strong. You absorbed my dragon. White 7 blazed. She became even angrier when she recognized her partner, who had deserted her. No, I saved you from your dragon. You should be thanking me, Tang Wuling said, annoyed. I never asked you to save me. Did I look like I needed saving? Yes, you did. And you still do, he thought, looking at her torn cloak. I would have killed it with ease if you hadn't interfered. The energy in that iron head dragon would have greatly increased my strength. You owe me an iron head dragon. Tang Wuling said nothing and started to walk away, but White 7 grabbed hold of his sleeve. Wait, she said. What? Tang Wuling said, turning back. I'm so tired. She fainted. Before she fell to the ground, Tang Wuling caught her in his arms. He carried her to a tree and leaned her gently against it. Then he took out a coat from one of his storage rings and spread it over her. I can't just leave her here by herself. She will catch a cold, or some dangerous beast may find her. Besides, she knows the name of that dragon, which means she knows a lot more about this world than I do. I can ask her a few questions when she wakes up. Tang Wuling gathered some wood to make a fire. White 7 was still sleeping when the sun vanished behind a mountain and darkness began to creep through the forest. A cold wind whispered through the trees, stirring his white cloak and sending a scatter of red cinders flying from the fire. He skewered a chunk of beef and a bean on sticks and then thrust them in the ground beside the fire. He also hung a canned vegetable soup over the fire to heat. He was not a great cook by any means, but it didn't take a great cook to reheat cooked food. Before long, hot grease was running down the beef skewer. Tang Wuling was about to dig in when 2 slender and fair hands shot out of the dark and grabbed his food. White 7 took a large bite of the beef first, not caring if it was too hot, and then bit off a large chunk of the bean, chewing vigorously, looking at Tang Wuling with a gloating smile of triumph. Chapter 715. What do you want? Hey, those are mine. Tang Wuling exclaimed, standing up. Yet he made no attempt to get them back. He had always had a soft spot for the hungry. When she saw that her partner was not coming for his food, White 7 plopped down on the ground, chewing blissfully. Hot grease was running down her chin, but she was too famished to care. Suddenly she began to hit herself on the chest, her face turning red. Tang Wuling thought she must have gotten some food stuck in her throat, so he rushed over right away and patted her on the back. Your food is too dry, she said with difficulty. Get me some soup to wash it down. Strangely, Tang Wuling did as she said. White 7 took her mask off. She had had enough of it hindering her from enjoying the food. Tang Wuling's eyes went wide. He knew those big eyes and pretty eyelashes. Diuna. I should have guessed. Her spiritual attack and her princess syndrome. Everything was telling me that she was Diuna, but I never thought to see her here. Diuna must have felt his shock, because she grinned at him with wicked delight. You know who I am, don't you? You left me behind, but don't be scared. I forgive you. You didn't know who I was. From now on, you will do exactly what I say and never talk back or ask silly questions. Do you understand? Now get me something better to eat. These are inedible. I can barely force them down my throat. Tang Wuling threw a disdainful glance at her and started to stride off. Hey, where do you think you're going? The princess blazed. Far away from you. Hey, stop. I said stop. Diuna lurched to her feet and quickly stepped before Tang Wuling, holding the beef in one hand and the bean in the other. She is quite a sight with her tattered cloak. Tang Wuling smiled behind his mask. I don't think she has ever experienced this kind of hardship before. What do you want, my princess? I want you to follow my orders, she said angrily. Why would I do that? Because if you don't, I will have your head when we get out. I like my head where it is, but I don't want to follow your stupid orders, so I guess I have no choice but to kill you. Diuna took a step backward in fear. She started to reach for her dragon ball, but then found both her hands were occupied. She didn't want to drop the food to the ground. She had gone many days without anything to eat. Tang Wuling saw the fear in her eyes and laughed. I won't kill you, but get the hell out of my way. When she didn't move, he shoved her to one side and brushed past her. If you promise to protect me, I'll ask father to make you a knight, Diuna said hurriedly. Tang Wuling stopped and turned around. A knight? Yes. It's a great honor. You can be my personal guard if you want when we get out. I don't want to be a knight or your personal guard. I doubt anyone wants your personal guard. It would be the worst nightmare. Then what do you want? Money. No amount of money can buy me another chance to get in the Dragon Valley again, but maybe I can persuade him to protect me. That would help me last longer in this world. Rare metals. I'll write you a list. In exchange, I'll protect you the best I can. What do you want rare metals for? Diuna asked, suddenly wary. Rare metals are strategic materials. Are you a spy for the Green Skull Renegades? Are you seriously asking me that? Did you get kicked in the head while fighting that dragon? No, I didn't. But do you have a first aid kit with you? As it happens, I do. But your princess syndrome is beyond cure. I'm afraid. Tang Wuling gestured. No, I'm hurt. Tang Wuling walked over to her. Where? My. But, Diana said in a low voice, blushing, that stupid dragon scratched me with its claws. Tang Wuling took out his first aid kit and handed it to her. Thank you. Diana took it in her hand. Write down your list, but make it short. With that she ran behind a big tree. In the dim light of the fire, Tang Wuling started writing on a piece of paper the rare metals that could only be found on the Douluo continent. Ow. Diana shouted suddenly. Tang Wuling put down the pen, snatched up a burning stick, and ran to that big tree. When he lowered the torch, he saw Diana was applying medicine to a cheek of her butt, which was round and white. A scream echoed through the forest, and the princess quickly covered her buttocks with her cloak, glaring at Tang Wuling. Tang Wuling felt awfully embarrassed. He hastily turned around and walked back to the fire. A few moments later, Diana emerged from the dark of the woods. She finished the beef and being in silence by the fire. I'm sorry, Tang Wuling started. Diana cut him off. Shut up. Tang Wuling did as he was bid and went back to writing. Diana ate some soup, walked over to him, and snatched the paper up. Chapter 716. I didn't see it clearly, Tang Wuling said in a feeble voice. Diana gave him a vicious glare. How clearly did you want to see it? Do you know that you've committed a crime punishable by death in the outside world? I'm only going to forgive you for now because you had good intentions and were looking out for my best interests. She wrote down her name on a piece of paper in her hand as she spoke before handing it to Tang Wuling. Tang Wuling was rather taken aback to hear this. So you do know when someone's being good to you? Diana raised an eyebrow in exasperation. Of course I do. I'm just a little willful, but I do know the difference between good and bad people. I do know that you're a kind person at heart. Tang Wuling sewed away the piece of paper, which was now a contract, and said, all right, you have yourself a deal. Do you know how long we've been in here? Diana replied, 2 months. Tang Wuling was quite startled to hear this. It's already been 2 months. In his mind, he felt as if he'd only been in here for about half a month or so, but much to his surprise, 2 months had already passed. Diana pulled out a small round apparatus, and said, I have a device that compares the time in this small world with the time in the outside world. I went through a lot of trouble to get this, and it shows me that we've been in here for 2 months and a day, so we'll have to last at least another month. Tang Wuling's brows furrowed slightly upon hearing this. He didn't think that he'd been in here for so long already. It appeared that his meditation sessions were always remarkably long. It was no wonder that they enhanced his body so significantly. Unfortunately, his soul power had been sealed, so it hadn't increased even in the slightest during the past 2 months of meditation. If he could also cultivate his soul power during deep meditation, he would have at least been able to advance one level in his cultivation. Hey, I still don't know your name, but you already know who I am. Isn't it about time you take off your mask and let me see what you look like? Diana asked. Tang Wuling shook his head and replied, I can't. You can just call me White Tree. Do you have something to hide? Diana pursed her lips. Tang Wuling remained silent, but all of a sudden, Diana reached up and attempted to make a grab for his mask. Tang Wuling immediately slid back and used her hand to block her hand at ease. Diana's strength was obviously no match for his, so she was sent spinning on the spot like a top before sitting back down onto the ground again. Oi, do you have any chivalrous spirit at all? I don't. I've already told you this, Tang Wuling replied as he also sat back down. Tell me what you know about the Dragon Valley. Only with more information can I ensure your safety during the next month. Diana harumphed. What's the big deal? It's not like I even want to see what you look like. It's said that this Dragon Valley is a small world that was created by the Dragon Clan. There are many dragon carcasses buried here, so there are also many dragon souls present in this small world. The presence of these dragon souls is what's restricting us from being able to use soul power, rendering us unable to forge connections with the soul power within our own bodies. However, these dragon souls can also be fused into our bodies to improve our physical constitution, and they could even instill hints of dragon type aura into our bloodlines. This is immensely beneficial to our future cultivation, especially when it comes to progression. Tang Wuling gave a slight nod to acknowledge her words. Thus, Diana continued. The clouds in the sky are a form of dragon souls. These clouds are the safest as they have no sentient will and only act according to instinct. When they detect a compatible aura, they'll automatically fall from the sky. However, such occurrences are extremely rare as those dragon clouds are very far away from the ground. So if we want them to be able to sense our auras, we must possess extremely compatible auras. As such, most soul masters are unable to draw those dragon clouds down from above. For example, my martial soul is of the spirit and darkness attributes, and there are exceedingly few dragon clouds of those attributes. I've tried my luck on the plains after entering this place, but I haven't been able to draw even a single dragon cloud down to me. Diana pouted in a dejected manner as she spoke. However, Tang Wuling wore a rather peculiar expression upon hearing this. Were dragon clouds really that difficult to attract? Diana failed to notice his expression as she continued. Aside from dragon clouds, there are also dragon souls here. Like I mentioned, dragon souls all differ in power levels, and compared to dragon clouds, they possess energy of a slightly lower caliber, but they have a certain level of autonomy and sentience. Most dragon souls are very aggressive, and if we encounter them, all we have to do is destroy them, and their dragon type auras will fuse into our bodies to improve our constitutions. The natural energies within them can act as nutrients to replenish our bodies. I've already destroyed a few of these dragon souls, but the battles have been quite arduous due to my inability to use soul power. Thankfully, all of these dragon souls are quite weak. All of them only possess 1% of the powers they had during their living days at most. Tang Wuling nodded and replied, I see. Are dragon clouds and dragon souls the only two things that exist here in this Dragon Valley? In that case, this place doesn't seem to be all that dangerous. Diana shook her head and said, no, there are some other things in here as well. It's said that there are some mysterious regions in here that still haven't been fully explored. I've only heard rumors of this, but apparently, there is a dragon tomb in this Dragon Valley, and all of the most powerful dragon souls can be found there. Those true dragon souls are guardians of the dragon tomb, protecting their own bodies, as well as the bodies of their ancestors. You know about the bodies of dragons, they're riddled with treasures, and it would be immensely beneficial to us even if we could get our hands on just a single dragon bone. During ancient times, the Dragon Clan once ruled over the entire Douluo continent, and some of our seniors of the Battle Hall have once obtained true dragon spirit bones from the Dragon Valley. Those are truly exceptional spirit bones. The enhancements that a true dragon soul bone can bring to us soul masters is immeasurable. Oh, true dragon soul bone? Tang Wuling was also quite tempted by this prospect. He had experienced firsthand just how immensely beneficial soul bones were. His right-hand soul bone came from a dust gold dreadclaw bear, and it could be said that it was the most powerful weapon he had prior to attaining his golden dragon spear. His golden dragon dreadclaw was already one of his most powerful trump cards. If he could throw a true dragon soul bone into the mix, just how immensely powerful would it become? Should we go and find that dragon tomb? Tang Wuling asked. Sure. If we really do find true dragon soul bones there, we'll split them 50-50. Diana replied without any hesitation. Tang Wuling shook his head and said, with your mediocre combat prowess, you can give up on soul bones. I'm just taking you with me so you can gain some experience. You. Diana's eyes immediately widened as she exclaimed, White Tree, how can you be so ungrateful? If I hadn't told you about the dragon tomb, how would you have even heard about true dragon soul bones? Tang Wuling shrugged and replied, you said this yourself. The true dragon soul bones are guarded by powerful dragon souls. Are you saying that you'll be able to obtain one of them without me? I don't care. If we find true dragon soul bones, you have to give me some. Otherwise, I won't take you there. Diana placed her hands on her hips in a stubborn manner. Suit yourself. I'll just go find it myself. Good luck staying here on your own, Tang Wuling said before standing up and preparing to depart. He had no time for an unreasonable princess like her, so he had to teach her a lesson. Don't go. Diana hurriedly rose to her feet, but she was still rather feeble, so her body swayed unsteadily from her sudden movement. Tang Wuling stopped before turning back to look at her. Have you made up your mind? Diana gritted her teeth and said, no wonder you're not letting me see what you look like. You must be scared that I'll seek revenge on you when we get out of this place. Hee hee. Tang Wuling nearly chuckled. Diana immediately flared up with rage. Hee hee my ass. How about this? If we do find true dragon soul bones, I'll exchange some with you for items of equal value. After we get out of here, I can offer you things like spirit items in exchange for soul bones. Do we have ourselves a deal? Diana was clearly on the brink of tears, and Tang Wuling was feeling rather sympathetic toward her. So he said, let's discuss this when we actually find some spirit bones. There's no point in talking about all this right now. Diana sat back down again and suddenly burst into tears as she threw her arms around her knees. Tang Wuling immediately faltered upon seeing this. Why was she crying? However, he made no effort to try and console her. She was most likely crying because she was feeling very helpless in a place like this. Hardships prompted growth, so this experience wasn't necessarily a bad thing for her. He was playing the bad guy now, but perhaps many years down the track, she would be grateful that she'd met him during this time. After crying for a while, Diana's sobs subsided, and she fell into a deep sleep as she leaned against a tree. It was quite clear that she was truly exhausted. She detested Tang Wuling, but the presence of someone beside her still instilled within her a sense of security, so she was able to sleep soundly. This was the first good sleep she had had since entering the Dragon Valley. Meanwhile, Tang Wuling stayed by her side and processed all of the information that Dou had just imparted on him. He had absorbed many dragon clouds already, so if those dragon souls possessed energy of a lower caliber than dragon clouds, then they weren't really attractive to him. As such, perhaps the best option for him now was to find the Dragon Tomb. Chapter 717. Soul bones could drastically enhance a soul master's combat prowess, and their ability to bolster soul master's constitution was also unmatched. If a soul master could collect all 6 soul bones, which included 2 arm bones, 2 leg bones, a trunk bone, and a head bone, their body would be enhanced to an incredible degree. As such, it would make it a lot easier for him to withstand the trauma inflicted on his body during the absorption of the soul of the Golden Dragon King. But where was this Dragon Tomb? Ever since he first arrived in the Dragon Valley, Tang Wuling had sensed that there was something calling him. In particular, this feeling grew more pronounced as he was absorbing dragon clouds. However, due to the fact that he had to enter a meditative state to absorb the enormous amount of energy brought to him by those dragon clouds, he hadn't had a chance to determine the direction that this calling was coming from. Tang Wuling had recently awakened from his meditation, and he was about to set off in pursuit of that calling anyway, but he just so happened to bump into Dou. Thus, he closed his eyes and rested alongside her. He wasn't concerned that any dragon souls would appear to attack him as here in this Dragon Valley. He felt as if he were completely at home. Perhaps this was a benefit brought to him by his Golden Dragon King bloodline. In contrast with all of the other agents of the battle hall present, he felt like a fish in water here, and it would be very difficult for those dragon souls to pose any threat to him. Deep within the Dragon Valley, a low buzzing sound suddenly rang out in the air, and the dragon clouds up above began to churn violently. Immediately thereafter, the entire surrounding area that spanned tens of thousands of square kilometers began to resonate strongly with this buzzing sound. The dragon clouds in the sky were forcibly dispersed, and an inky black rift silently appeared. The rift then gradually began to elongate, and it was as if the entire sky were about to be torn apart. After that, a pair of gigantic claws began to extend through the rift. This was a pair of pitch black scaled claws, and they slowly pulled the rift apart as a low roar erupted from within. All of the dragon clouds in the Dragon Valley that heard this roar reflexively began to descend while adopting dragon forms, as if they were bowing in awe and reverence. The rift was spread wider and wider by the pair of giant claws, but violent energy fluctuations erupted throughout the entire space, attempting to compress the rift so that it wouldn't widen any further. Right at this moment, a series of figures began to emerge from within the rift before plummeting straight to the ground. There were 5 figures in total that had descended from the rift, 3 of which were male while the other 2 were female. One of them was extremely tall and broad, with a muscle-bound body and a gleaming bald head. Standing beside him was a man with dry skin who resembled a thin tree branch. However, his eyes were shimmering with bright green light, thereby giving him a rather unsettling appearance. The third man also possessed a muscular physique, but he wasn't as burly in stature as the bald man. He had a head of slightly curled red hair, and even his brows and beard were of the same color. His eyes were gleaming with a dangerous light, and his entire body seemed to be filled with explosive power. Their 2 female companions were both exquisite beauties. One of them wore a black dress with black hair and a pair of peculiar purple eyes. She had an extremely voluptuous figure that was filled with explosive curves. The other woman wore a green dress, and she was a lot more normal in appearance. Her figure was a lot more balanced, and she wore a gentle expression on her gorgeous face, giving off the impression that she was quite charismatic and approachable. Right after the 5 of them landed on the ground, they raised their heads in unison to stare intently at the spatial rift up above. Dense light began to rise up from their bodies, and the soul power restrictions in the Dragon Valley seemed to be completely ineffective against them. All 5 of them then raised their hands at the same time, and 10 streaks of light shot forth from their hands, striking the edge of the inky black rift. All of a sudden, the rift was stabilized, and it ceased its struggles against the pair of giant black claws. A low dragon's roar erupted from within the spatial rift, and the pair of massive claws abruptly spread apart once again, expanding the rift to around twice its original size. A gargantuan body began to slowly emerge from within the rift. In the beginning, it was only a huge inky black dragon head with a pair of shimmering golden eyes. Those golden eyes seemed to be able to pierce through the entire world, and just the dragon's head alone was several tens of meters tall. Another pair of dragon claws then abruptly emerged from within the rift, and its colossal body also finally managed to squeeze through. The black dragon threw its head back and let loose a thunderous roar of fury, upon which all of the surrounding dragon clouds immediately surged toward it in a frenzy before being instantly absorbed. As a result, the black dragon's aura swelled explosively, and it was finally able to squirm its way completely out of the spatial rift. It possessed a gigantic body that was over 1,000 feet in length, and as it spread open its massive wings, the entire sky was obscured by its colossal frame. A layer of purplish black light that resembled a domain began to permeate in all directions around the giant black dragon's body, and all of the dragon clouds in a radius of hundreds of thousands of meters began to descend as if to pledge their subordination. The gargantuan black dragon then shrank rapidly while descending from the sky, and after landing on the ground, it had already transformed into a handsome middle-aged man with a burly frame. Long black hair trailed down to his shoulders on either side of his face with a strip of golden hair situated slightly to the left of the direct center of his head. After landing on the ground, he also raised his hands up into the air, emulating the actions of his 5 companions. 2 bursts of dark purple light erupted into the sky, contributing to supporting the spatial rift as well. Thus, the rift continued to widen, and a burst of dazzling silver light slowly emerged from within before descending from above. This was another humanoid figure, and as soon as she appeared, all 6 of the people down below cried out in unison, "We welcome our lord." The silver figure slowly descended, revealing herself to be a woman with a head of long silver hair. She was wearing a silver dress, and her face had been concealed by a silver veil. As she drifted down from above, there was not even a single hint of energy fluctuations emanating from her body. The middle-aged man that was the giant black dragon said in a respectful manner, "My lord, the 6 of us can only combat this small world for 7 days, so you must find what you need during that time." "All right, I used a space and time formation to seal the time within that spatial rift. The seal will be effective for around 3 hours, so when we get out of here, only 3 hours should have passed in the outside world. Stabilize the spatial rift here. I'll be back soon." After her voice trailed off, the silver-haired woman's body flashed, and she vanished on the spot. "Hey, how do you know this is the right direction?" Dou had donned her mask again. Her hands were on her hips in a display of displeasure. "Tang Wuling counter, do you know which way is the right way?" Dou replied in a rather sheepish manner, "I'm not sure, but I do know that the Dragon Tomb should be situated in the deepest part of the Dragon Valley. And which direction is that in?" Tang Wuling asked. Let's keep going." Tang Wuling strode on toward the end of the plains up ahead. He obviously didn't know where the Dragon Tomb was, but he could feel that the calling was the strongest in that direction. A series of dragon clouds were drifting in the air above, and those that were tinged with a faint golden hue had all been absorbed by Tang Wuling already. He had been traversing through this area this entire time, so he was quite familiar with it. Dou followed along behind Tang Wuling, and after eating the food that he'd given her, she had made close to a full recovery. She was a 4-ring soul ancestor, after all, and even though she couldn't use any soul power, her physical constitution was naturally still far superior to that of a normal person. Tang Wuling was walking very quickly, but Dou was able to keep up relatively easily. As she walked along behind Tang Wuling, she would occasionally look up at the dragon clouds in the sky, hoping that one would fall for her. "Oh, that's a black dragon cloud, so it's a darkness attribute 1. Do you think it'll fall for me? White 3, can you help me jump a little higher? I want to try and attract that cloud," Dou suddenly said. Tang Wuling glanced at her, and before he even had a chance to reply, the black dragon cloud in the sky suddenly shuddered before descending directly toward them. "Wow, it's coming, it's coming." Dou rushed forward a few steps and leapt into the air with elation. She knew that White 3 most likely didn't possess a darkness attribute martial soul, so this black dragon cloud had to have been attracted by her. Chapter 718. Just as Dou was eagerly awaiting the moment that she'd be able to absorb the energy within the descending dragon cloud, she was stunned to see that the dragon cloud abruptly split apart just as it was about to make contact with her, and the 2 halves of the cloud simply flew past her in the end. She turned around with a stunned expression to find the 2 halves of the black dragon cloud surging directly into Tang Wuling's body. The dragon cloud then emerged from behind him, rising up into the air as a golden cloud this time. You stole my dragon cloud. You're a liar. You also have a darkness attribute martial soul." Dou had become quite enraged at missing out on such a splendid opportunity. Firstly, you never asked what attribute my martial soul is. Secondly, do I really possess a darkness attribute martial soul? Tang Wuling said as he pointed behind her. Diana turned around reflexively, and the sight that she was greeted by had her in complete disbelief. Dragon clouds were falling from the sky one after another before adopting their dragon forms while surging directly toward her. In the next instant, the dragon clouds surged toward her, yet not a single one fell on her. All of them passed her by before flying toward Tang Wuling. The dragon clouds passed through his body one after another, taking on a golden hue before rising up into the air again. Diana looked on in a completely flabbergasted manner as Tang Wuling walked through the multitude of dragon clouds, as if he were taking a stroll in the park. He had experienced many similar scenarios during the past 2 months, so this was nothing noteworthy to him. How is this possible? Diana was in complete disbelief at the sight that she was beholding. Weren't dragon clouds only supposed to be attracted to those with martial souls of the same attribute? Wasn't an extremely high rate of compatibility required as well? Why was he able to absorb all of the dragon clouds in the area? Why? Diana had always been touted as a bright prodigy ever since she was born. She had twin martial souls and was the princess of a powerful empire. Even she was under the impression that she had been blessed by the heavens. As such, the scene unfolding before her eyes dealt her an extremely heavy blow. In her eyes, this white tree was like an insurmountable mountain that she'd never be able to surpass. Her heart was filled with unbridled fury. Why were the heavens so unfair? Why was it that he was able to absorb all of the dragon clouds while she couldn't even attract a single one? You'll be fine when you get used to this. Tang Wuling brushed past her and continued to advance quickly onward. Indeed, he had already grown accustomed to this. Even though the dragon clouds that were surging into his body could still provide some enhancement effects, the benefits he derived from them were far less pronounced than in the beginning. Of course, if he were to accumulate enough of them, they could still affect significant changes within his body. Does he not need to stop to absorb them? Does he not need to process the energy within those dragon clouds? Are dragon clouds ineffective to you? In that case, why would they be attracted to you? Diana was trying to console herself with the notion that perhaps he had an inability to absorb these dragon clouds. Otherwise, why didn't he need to stop even after such a huge influx of dragon clouds had entered his body? Well, you can interpret it that way if it makes you feel better. Tang Wuling couldn't be bothered to provide an in-depth explanation. As time passed, dragon clouds continued to surge incessantly into Tang Wuling's body. After a day, they passed through the entire plains, and Diana had already become completely numb. She was already used to seeing one dragon cloud after passing through Tang Wuling's body, and she was convinced that they had no effect on him. Otherwise, how could he be displaying no reaction to them at all? Unbeknownst to her, if Tang Wuling were to activate the power of the bloodline within his body, the invisible layer of enamel on the surface of his skin would become very visible and pronounced. His constitution was still changing at a slow and steady rate. After emerging from the plains, the dragon clouds in the sky became sparser than before. Thank heavens I don't have to watch you gobbling up dragon clouds for fun anymore. Diana huffed in an angry manner. Tang Wuling merely chuckled and gave no response. Having left the plains, the intimate sense of calling seemed to have become even more pronounced to him. All of a sudden, a burst of rustling sounded from up ahead. Be careful, it looks like there are dragon souls up ahead, Diana said in a cautious voice as she hid behind Tang Wuling. Her words had only just trailed off when a group of over 10 dragon souls appeared in their field of view. These dragon souls were only around half a meter tall each, and they were traveling at an extremely fast speed. All of them had remarkably large heads, and their mouths were wide open, revealing rows of sharp menacing fangs. The fact that none of them had any wings indicated they were a pack of low-level land dragons, and they quickly surrounded Tang Wuling and Diana. Save some for me. I want to absorb some of their energy, Diana hurriedly reminded him. After accompanying Tang Wuling for over a day, she discovered that he didn't even seem to be a human being. Not only was he freakishly strong, he didn't seem to know what it meant to be tired, and he had an insane appetite. By the time Diana had finished one being, he would have eaten 4 or 5 already. Tang Wuling nodded in response before abruptly stepping forward, and he could sense that a burst of fury was welling up in his heart. This was the same kind of rage experienced by a superior being when provoked by those that were vastly inferior. In the face of this group of land dragons, he let loose a cold roar. Piss off. All of the land dragon souls that had just surrounded them immediately stiffened upon hearing this, and they all exploded right before Diana's dumbstruck eyes, forming balls of energy that hurtled directly toward Tang Wuling. Oi! Diana let loose a cry of shock and indignation upon seeing this. He had agreed to save some of these dragon souls for her. Tang Wuling waved a hand through the air as if he was swatting at flies, and an invisible burst of power erupted forth, batting the balls of energy away from him and redirecting them into Diana's body instead. Diana was immediately struck by an indescribably warm and comfortable sensation as she quickly absorbed all of the energy formed by the dozen or so land dragon souls. Tang Wuling's brows furrowed slightly. What was that feeling just now? It seemed to have been disdainful. This was a completely natural and instinctive reaction, as if his bloodline were rejecting this energy. He had experienced the same feeling back when he had absorbed the energy of that iron head dragon. The energy did replenish him somewhat, but absorbing it was not a good feeling for him. At the very least, it felt different from absorbing dragon clouds. Could this mean that dragon souls contained different energy compared to dragon clouds? Dragon clouds contained pure energy that could enhance his body, while the energy within dragon souls stemmed from land dragons. Could that be why his body naturally rejected it? That seemed to be a plausible explanation. You're a good person. Diana skipped over to him as she took off her mask, revealing the elated look on her face. Ever since she first entered the Dragon Valley, she had never had the opportunity to absorb over 10 dragon souls at once. She could clearly feel her body being bolstered by the bursts of heat circulating within her meridians. This was a fantastic feeling for her. Tang Wuling opened his mouth to reply, but he swallowed his words in the end as he didn't have the heart to tell her that she'd just absorbed something that he rejected. In any case, it was better for her to think of him as a good person rather than a bad person. Thus, after entering the forest, they began to encounter more and more dragon souls, but most of them were land dragon souls that weren't all that powerful. Even if they weren't directly vanquished by the might of Tang Wuling's bloodline, the combination of his freakish strength and his spirit-refined heavy silver hammers were more than enough to take care of them with ease. Tang Wuling didn't require the energy imbued within these dragon souls, so he simply rejected it and guided it toward Diana. Diana had been quite displeased with and antagonistic toward him initially, but she was quickly warming to him. I can't keep going. I have to meditate to absorb this energy. Due to the fact that Diana had absorbed too much dragon soul energy, her cheeks were heavily flushed as if she were intoxicated, and she sat down onto the ground. She then looked up at Tang Wuling with a smile and said, I was wrong about you. You really are a good person. When we get out of here, I'm going to give you some extra uncommon medals, and I'll get father to give you noble status. After that, she closed her eyes and entered a meditative state. Tang Wuling was quite amused at the sight of the content smile on her face. Her feelings toward others were very clear-cut. She was fond of those who were good to her, and disdainful toward those who wronged her. In the face of the benefits that she was receiving from Tang Wuling, the spoiled princess had become a lot more amicable. During the past 2 days, Tang Wuling discovered that Diana was far from rotten to the core. She was very willful and mischievous, but she was a good person at heart, and she was far more liberal and approachable compared to most uptight and formal royals. In particular, after Tang Wuling had helped her absorb so many dragon souls, she was already referring to him as Brother 3 as opposed to White 3. Her sweet and mellow voice still gave Tang Wuling goosebumps, but what was undeniable was that their relationship had improved significantly. Tang Wuling made his way over to Diana before sitting down behind her, then placing his right hand against her back before activating his own bloodline. Chapter 719. After reacting to his Golden Dragon King bloodline, the energy from the dragon souls became a lot more readily absorbed by Diana. This was something that Tang Wuling had unintentionally discovered. With the assistance of his bloodline aura, the low-level dragon souls would become very submissive, thereby allowing Diana to refine and absorb them more quickly. As her body continued to be enhanced by these dragon souls, she was filled with vitality, and not only did she have far more stamina compared to in the past, she didn't even need to eat anything anymore. Half an hour later, Diana sprang up from the ground, rising up to around 5 meters before gently drifting back down like a falling leaf. She had jumped that high without the use of her soul power, and that indicated a marked improvement in her constitution. This is fantastic. You're the best, Brother 3. Diana suddenly pounced on Tang Wuling before planting a kiss on his mask, causing him to stumble back and retreat. Let's keep going, Tang Wuling said in a resigned manner. Diana grabbed onto his arm with a wide smile and said, You're so good to me, Brother 3. My teacher told me in the past that if I want to ascend to the level of titled Douluo, I have to focus more on improving my physical constitution, as only with a more powerful body will I be able to withstand such an enormous amount of soul power, as well as compress my soul power to further progress in my cultivation. I have twin martial souls, but one of them is an agility attack type while the other is a spirit type, neither of which will significantly enhance my body. My teacher also told me that if I were to bolster my body solely through consuming spirit items, that would result in an unstable foundation, so I've been constantly working hard to improve my constitution. However, even after working arduously for so many years, the benefits I've derived can't compare with how much my constitution has been improved during these past few days. I really was wrong about you. If I'd known that you were such a good person from the beginning, I would have let you sleep in the room. Ahem. Tang Wuling freed his arms from Dayuna's grasp in an inconspicuous manner as he said, Yuna, it's inappropriate for excessive physical contact to take place between a man and a woman who aren't related in any way. Dayuna immediately burst into laughter upon hearing this. I haven't gotten married yet, so there's nothing to worry about. Speaking of which, father has been constantly nagging me to choose a husband, and I came on this battle hole mission just so I can get away from him. He's urging me to choose a husband after the conclusion of the Continental Young Elites tournament, and he was originally going to marry me off to Big Brother Long. Do you know Big Brother Long? A thought occurred to Tang Wuling upon hearing this, and he asked, are you talking about that Dragon King from Monster Academy? Dayuna chuckled as she replied, that's the one. Everyone calls him Crazy Long, and even my brother says that Big Brother Long has always liked me. Then what about you? Do you like him? Tang Wuling asked. Dayuna huffed in an indignant manner. Are you stupid? If I liked him as well, would I have run away? A dejected look suddenly appeared on her face as she spoke, and she continued, I know that Big Brother Long has always been really good to me. He's so powerful, and he's regarded as the #1 prodigy of the younger generation. He's a 6-ring soul emperor at just 20 years of age, placing him among a small handful of the most powerful soul masters of the younger generation. I can sense the affection that he has for me, but I can't help but be scared of him. There's always this deranged aura that he would give off from time to time, and that really scares me. I'm afraid that if I marry him, he's going to kill me in a fit of rage someday, and it's exactly because of this that I can't bring myself to reciprocate his feelings. In my heart, he's always been like a big brother to me. If you don't like him, then don't marry him. In our federation, there's complete freedom in love, so no one can force you to marry anyone against your will, Tang Wuling said. Dayuna countered, but that doesn't apply to me. I'm a princess, and according to the rules of our royal family, a princess has to be engaged by 15 and married by 18. That's why I ran away to come on this mission, but when I go back, father is most likely going to force me into an engagement anyway. I'm already quite lucky in that I at least get a choice in the matter. Father says that as long as it's someone I like, I can choose anyone, but I have to follow the royal rules and ensure that I'm engaged by 15. Tang Wuling said, that doesn't sound too bad. Don't you have someone you like? Dayuna suddenly faltered upon hearing this, and a figure abruptly flashed through her mind, upon which a hint of anger and indignation welled up in her heart. No, I don't have anyone I like. Tang Wuling was rather taken aback by her enraged response. Were all young women this susceptible to mood swings when talking about relationship issues? Not only was this the case for Dayuna, Yue was like this as well. Dayuna shook her head vigorously to try and rid herself of the figure that had appeared in her mind, and she said, let's not talk about that anymore. Brother 3, you're so exceptional, so you must have a girlfriend already, right? Tang Wuling shook his head, and replied, I don't. I think I did, but I think I may have been dumped since. On top of that, I feel like she's approaching me for an ulterior motive. Dayuna was extremely intrigued by this kind of gossipy subject, and she hurriedly urged, what's the situation? Tell me. Tang Wuling sighed. At first, we entered the same academy and cultivated together. She had always been very affectionate toward me, and I gradually became accustomed to having her by my side. I was always happy when she was there, but at the time, we were both quite young, so I didn't know what kind of feeling that was. However, as time passed, this feeling gradually began to change. Her attitude toward me has become really strange. She always seems to be fluctuating between trying to get closer to me and trying to distance herself from me. In recent times, she seems to be intentionally shutting me out, and I also can't help but feel that she wants to approach me for a certain motive that has something to do with the connection between our martial souls. Dayuna furrowed her brows upon hearing this. That sounds really complicated. In my opinion, I feel like you're overthinking things. It's just like what you asked me. Do you like her? Tang Wuling faltered momentarily before nodding in response. Dayuna smiled as she continued. There you go. If you like her, then pursue her. Who cares what she thinks? Have you ever told her how you felt about her? I think a confession will be the catalyst that's needed to make love blossom between the two of you. Besides, isn't pursuing someone without paying any heed to consequences the whole point of being in love? Tang Wuling couldn't help but burst into laughter upon hearing this. You seem to be quite the expert. Dayuna replied in a smug manner. I'm definitely more of an expert than you. Let's go. I want to encounter more powerful dragon souls. Are you sure you don't need to absorb any dragon souls? Brother 3? There's no need for that. They don't seem to help me anyway, Tang Wuling replied. Thus, the two of them continued deeper into the forest. Strangely enough, they didn't encounter even a single battle hall agent that they'd arrived in this dragon valley with along the way. This seemed to have something to do with the intricacies of this small world, but Tang Wuling couldn't pinpoint the exact reason for this. Boom. Tang Wuling raised his hammers before slamming them viciously onto the head of a crimson land dragon, causing it to collapse onto the ground. The intimidation of his bloodline aura then vanquished it into a stream of energy, which he redirected toward Dayuna. Wow, what a powerful dragon soul. After absorbing the dragon soul, Dayuna felt as if every single cell within her body was filled with energy. Brother 3, we've been traveling for so long. Are you sure we're going the right way? Dayuna asked. Tang Wuling immediately nodded without any hesitation. I wasn't too sure in the beginning, but I'm convinced this is the right way now. Have you discovered that the dragon souls we've encountered have become more and more powerful along our journey? Theoretically speaking, the most powerful dragon souls should be guarding the dragon tomb. So back when we encountered those weak land dragon souls, we were most likely situated on the outskirts of the dragon valley. That means the more powerful these dragon souls become, the closer we should be to the center of the dragon valley. That makes sense. Dayuna's eyes lit up, but she then immediately said, but we're also having more and more trouble dealing with these dragon souls. Brother 3, don't overexert yourself if we encounter dragon souls that are too powerful. I've already absorbed so many dragon souls, and I dare say that not many agents who have entered this small world in the past would have benefited as much as we have. So I'm already more than satisfied. If we encounter any danger, we'll use our dragon balls to get out of here right away. All right, Tang Wuling replied, but internally, he really wanted to explore the dragon tomb. He hadn't revealed his bloodline soul rings in front of Dayuna as he didn't want to expose his identity. So the dragon souls that they'd encountered so far were actually nowhere near the limit of what he could handle. Chapter 720. If we encounter any danger, don't hesitate to use your dragon ball right away, Tang Wuling cautioned. All right, same to you, Brother 3, Dayuna said with a smile. As she looked on at this white three's profile from behind, a peculiar look appeared in her eyes. During the few days they'd been together, she'd initially regarded him with fury and disdain, yet she was now feeling close enough with him to be referring to him as Brother 3. So her impression of him had been constantly changing. Of course, part of this was due to the affection that she developed for him due to all of the dragon souls he'd helped her absorb. But after her disdain for him had worn away, she began to carefully appraise him. As a result, she discovered that not only was this white 3 a wealth of knowledge, he also possessed exceptional practical combat abilities, and he was far more adept in the Tang sect techniques than she was. Furthermore, she had confirmed that white 3 had at least mastered the mysterious heaven method, mysterious jade hands, controlling crane capturing dragon, boast shadow perplexing track, and purple demon eyes. Those would have required a vast number of contribution points to obtain. Furthermore, he had also mastered the disorder splitting wind hammer technique, thereby allowing him to unleash immense power with his heavy silver hammers even without access to his martial soul. Whenever they encountered any dragon souls, he would always position himself before her, and the sight of his reliable figure filled her with an immense sense of security. He was an immovable mountain that would shield her from all peril. Long Yue also gave her the same feeling, but as opposed to a mountain, he was like a volatile volcano that could erupt at any moment. Furthermore, not only was white 3 extremely powerful, he was also constantly able to keep his cool even in the face of danger. He always made the right decision, and he possessed brilliant wilderness survival skills. On top of that, she had gradually come to realize that even if white 3 was older than herself, there was no way that he'd be older by much. As such, it was even more extraordinary that he possessed such an incredible skill set at such a young age, and before she knew it, she had become quite fond of him. For Dayuna, this mission was more like a game that allowed her to escape her monotonous life. As such, even though she'd endured many hardships prior to encountering Tang Wuling, she displayed no intention to leave as everything was a brand new experience to her. After meeting Tang Wuling, she'd been constantly fed with dragon souls, and she couldn't ascertain just how much more powerful she would become after combining her soul power with her body as she still didn't have access to the former. But she was sure that she would never have to worry about improving her physical constitution ever again. Even after leaving the Dragon Valley, it would take a long time for the energy within these dragon souls to be completely absorbed into her body. As such, unless she encountered a life-threatening situation, she was determined to stay in the Dragon Valley. Tang Wuling's eyes were slightly narrowed as he advanced on within a cautious manner. Right at this moment, A burst of spiritual power entered his brain in a stealthy manner. Just as he was about to resist this intrusion using his own spiritual power, he suddenly discovered that a three-dimensional image had appeared in his mind. All of a sudden, everything became remarkably clear to him, and he could see everything within a radius of several hundred meters. Tang Wuling immediately turned to Dai Yuna with a surprised look on his face, only to find her looking back at him with a smug expression. Am I impressive or what? That's my spiritual sharing ability. My second martial soul, Spirit Eyes, is a spirit attribute martial soul, so even if I can't use soul power, I can still use my spiritual power to fuel it. Tang Wuling gave her a thumbs up in response. Back when he'd first fought Dai Yuna, he discovered that she was able to predict his movements quite easily. Only after the tournament was he made aware of the fact that she possessed a spiritual detection ability that could allow her to accurately keep track of the changes in his movements. However, he didn't think that she also had this spiritual sharing ability. It was no wonder that she had been Wang Yue's partner for the 2-on-2 battle. If she were to continue to progress in her cultivation and her two martial souls didn't conflict with one another, she was going to become a very powerful being for sure. With that in mind, Tang Wuling smiled and said, "This is a fantastic ability." With the guidance of Dai Yuna's spiritual detection ability, they were able to progress a lot more quickly. In fact, Tang Wuling discovered that he could find the best path forward even with his eyes closed, and he was also able to prepare in advance before they encountered dragon souls. There's a big guy up ahead. Tang Wuling suddenly stopped before making a hand signal to Dai Yuna. The two of them crouched down behind a bush, and at the very edge of the area encompassed by Dai Yuna's spatial detection ability, there was a prowling dragon soul with faint red light emanating from its entire body. The dragon soul was over 20 meters tall, and both of its wings had been fully spread open. There seemed to be invisible flames rising up all over its body, and it had a pair of fearlessly sharp front claws, as well as a long tail that was trailing behind it. What kind of dragon is that? Dai Yuna asked in a low voice. Tang Wuling replied, "It appears to be a blazing fire dragon, but those are true dragons, not second-rate ones. On top of that, true blazing fire dragons are fearsome beings that are at least over 100 meters in length, whereas this dragon soul's body is only around 30 meters long." Dai Yuna's breathing was growing a little urgent as she said, "What's wrong with that? Don't forget that dragon souls only possess around 1% of the power from when they were alive, so it's only natural that they would have shrunk down significantly." Tang Wuling's expression changed slightly upon hearing this. That was a plausible explanation. Should we go around it? Tang Wuling asked in a hesitant manner. Why would we do that? The dragon soul of a true dragon will be greatly beneficial to us, so you can have this one. Why don't we try hunting it down? Dai Yuna said with an excited gleam in her eyes. Tang Wuling whispered, "I think we shouldn't do that. It's too dangerous. Don't forget that our objective is to find the dragon tomb." Dai Yuna pouted in response, but she still nodded in the end. "All right, let's go around it then." Right at this moment, a thunderous dragon roar erupted, immediately following which the blazing fire dragon suddenly changed directions, flapping its wings as it charged directly toward them. "Oh no, it sensed my spiritual fluctuations." Dai Yuna exclaimed. "Run." Tang Wuling urged in a low voice before grabbing onto Dai Yuna's arm and quickly leading her away. The blazing fire dragon rose up into the air before opening its mouth to send a massive fireball hurtling directly toward the two of them. The fireball rapidly expanded as it flew through the air, and when it was around 10 meters away from Tang Wuling and Dai Yuna, it had already swelled to a diameter of around 2 meters, and it was radiating scorching heat that instantly incinerated the surrounding plants into ashes. In this dire situation, Tang Wuling wrenched Dai Yuna into his arms before springing forward with all his might, and he propelled himself through the air like a cannonball. A violent explosion erupted behind him, sending a powerful scorching heat wave crashing into Tang Wuling's back. He gave a muffled groan as dragon scales abruptly appeared over his skin, and that invisible layer of enamel shimmered slightly. He accelerated even further with Dai Yuna in his arms, covering a distance of several tens of meters in the blink of an eye before rolling down onto the ground. Dai Yuna could only feel the temperatures around her rising incessantly, and her eyes were tightly shut as she reflexively grabbed onto Tang Wuling's clothes. For some reason, even though she was in this perilous situation, there was no hint of fear in her heart whatsoever. Instead, she was filled with exhilaration and the irrational yet unshakable belief that White 3 would protect her. After rolling along the ground for a few meters, Tang Wuling sprang to his feet before sprinting away with Dai Yuna in his arms. He couldn't compare with Dai Yuna in terms of agility, but when it came to explosive speed, Dai Yuna most likely wouldn't be able to match him even if she could use her soul power. Thus, Tang Wuling hurtled through the forest like a speeding arrow, and golden dragon scales had already appeared all over his body. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.